Recently, there's been a spate of unfortunate, suicides where young professionals have been unable to deal with the work pressure.
I think EQ plays the biggest role.
We're talking about 100-hour work weeks.
Toxic culture in firms need to stop now.
These days, money tends to be a big factor for people when they're applying for roles.
Never join a company which works against your values.
Up or out approach.
It is not about the long hours, but how you treat the person.
The person is constantly on a treadmill and you don't quite get a chance to get off that treadmill.
Please learn to say no, but do not work like a slave. Get out of the slavery.
Gen Z could be the generation that brings about that cultural shift.
Culture eats strategy for breakfast. Take your life a little more seriously and work hard to fight back. Never let the child in you die.
Children have stopped having fun.
Do we give back? It's a two-way street. If this is what the end is, how does it matter?
Welcome to the Growth Room with Nishtha. This is a space where we deep dive into the stories of leaders, innovators, and groundbreakers from all walks of life. Each episode unpacks their unique journey, the challenges they've faced, the wins that define them, and the lessons that shaped who they are today. But here's what sets the Growth Room apart. We go beyond the surface of success. Our mission is to uncover the heart of their stories, the role emotional intelligence and people management played in their rise. How do they connect and navigate through tough conversations? How do they build trust in their teams? How does EQ fuel innovation, resilience, and lasting impact? In our first episode, we're thrilled to have with us a trailblazer from the world of consulting, a visionary leader who's transformed industries and someone whose insights have shaped businesses and professionals globally. Joining us is none other than Richard Rekhy, the former CEO of KPMG India and a powerhouse of wisdom in leadership and strategy. But beyond the boardrooms and the accolades, he is a thinker who deeply understands the human side of business. Richard's illustrious career spans decades of building and nurturing talent, driving organizations towards excellence, and redefining the very essence of corporate leadership. Welcome to the Growth Room, Richard. Thank you so much for coming on the show. The first time I met you, I had this, I had butterflies in my stomach because in my world I was going to meet this stalwart, but you were just so easy, and your demeanor was so amenable. So thank you for bringing that vibe wherever you go. First of all, um, I want to start by asking you a question around the trades that you're known for. A lot of young children today want to become a part of the consulting world. But for our unversed viewers, can you tell us what is consulting?
So consulting uh, is a profession where you help clients grow. You bring new ideas. You are working to in the growth of companies, in the growth of people, in the growth of the nation. A lot of it goes to nation building, the kind of work that we do, where we help the governments with various projects. So I think it's a very exciting field. On one side, you work with a number of clients, you meet a number of people, you do cross-border work, you go international. The exposure you get in consulting, international experience is second to none.
The kind of personality, mindset that you need to have if you want to get into consulting.
All people are coming into consulting. I think the one big or a few big areas where they need to concentrate on work on is, especially in today's time,
Yeah.
you need to be an expert. Uh, I worked in the Big Four, so we had a breadth of experience. So when you go to these hardcore consulting firms or the top consulting firms like McKinsey and all that, they are more depth.
Right.
We are more breadth.
Right.
But now I think it's the period for expertise. So you need to be depth into one particular area, and that actually helps you, takes you into a very different kind of field that you go into. And so that is one, expertise. Then the second one is how do you deal with situations, how you are a problem solver. Today, when we go to a client, they have a problem. They don't care how you're structured or what your
Right.
internal structure is. Solve the problem. So you have to be a problem solver. You got to be positive minded. You got to have, obviously these consulting firms have huge databases and resources and tools available to the consultant to help them service their client. So
Right.
but I think for the individual, when you're asking what do they need to, it's critical thinking. How do you get critical thinking, out of box thinking, innovative mindset, not take out the fear of failure out of here. Most people don't do things because they are fearing that they will fail. And because of that fear, they don't just go ahead. So I think these are few things I would leave. And maybe, obviously, I'm not saying the very obvious, like they need to have passion, they need to have energy,
Right.
and they need to have hunger. So when you are in the consulting field, you need to go beyond. So today, in today's world with chat GPT, etc., I mean, the client has all the answers.
Right.
Can you give something beyond ChatGPT? And I'll also tell one more thing, which, because you said personality, I think you need to make an impact.
Right.
When you walk into that room, do people feel somebody has come in? It's the way you dress, the way you come across, the way you interact, the conversation levels that you have. So in consulting, the one thing I would tell people, be a voracious reader.
Yeah.
You have to read beyond your subject. So when you go and you're meeting a CEO, he's going to ask you various things. Okay, what's going to happen to the dollar? What's going to happen to the oil prices, the geopolitics? So you must be well read, well versed in this to have an intelligent conversation.
Right.
Otherwise, let me tell you, that will be the last cup of coffee you'll have with him
Yeah.
or her, whoever is the CEO.
Right.
So if you don't bring some value, so you need to bring value into a conversation.
But to bring value into a conversation, what is the one skill do you think they need, or perhaps people lack? Do you think it's listening?
So I think, thanks for reminding me, I think the biggest fallacy of most people, I will put myself also in that category. I don't want to be this thing, that is that do we have good listening skills?
Right.
So when you go to anybody, and I come from a very simple logic, I mean, you read it somewhere also, is why do people have 2 ears and one mouth?
Right.
I think it is you listen, because if you don't listen, you will never understand what the client wants.
Right.
So today, if I have to go to a client and want to understand this solution, if I keep talking, oh, this is what I've got a briefcase, I can sell you this, I'll sell you that, it's not going to help. He doesn't want it.
Right.
And you can't do a forced sale. And so I would say that it's important that consultants should learn the art of listening and listen to understand, and ask many questions as possible, because the more questions you ask, the better will be your understanding.
Right.
And you would be able to frame a better solution for the client. And that's what makes a difference between a good consultant and a normal consultant.
Now, in 2021, McKinsey had published a stage of fashion report, as it were. And they said that employer brand is a very, very big talent magnet. Now, you're someone who started your career with a not such a large accounting firm, and you spent, I think, over a decade there. What do you think people who start working with big, firms or companies from the word go miss out on?
So what has happened, the people who work, first let me tell you what are the positives of it.
Yeah.
So when you work in a big brand, you get the wherewithal of how they do the work, a work ethic is brought in, you get access to the global resources, you get access to, like I remember when I joined Anderson for the first time, Arthur Anderson, it used to be called that time. When I joined there, it was like a child in a toy shop. I mean, there was so much of information available. And I said, wow, this is what is going to now make my life very easy. So this is what you don't get in a small firm. You don't get that in a small firm. The firms, the training curriculum, everything else is very different league. But the disadvantage is they get you very siloed.
Right.
You just learn only one skill or one service line. In our case, we are consultants, so one service line. While in a small firm, you are exposed to everything. Your breadth of knowledge, you do much more work, you're much more innovative, entrepreneurial. There's no hierarchy there. You can just go and, I mean, if you are what you call a go-getter. You can just go and get anything done.
Right.
So I think that's a big advantage of being in a smaller firm. And also, I can tell you, I have been through three of the big four. Anderson was not big four; it was a big five at that time. But we merged into Ernst and Young. I was there
Yes.
for a short period, and then KPMG. I think what I learned in that small, medium sector firm, medium firm, I have not learned in any of these firms. And one more thing I will just tell youngsters as they listen. So I would not be fussed about where I start my career. You must go with the role and not with the title of the job. So if the
Right.
role is good, is giving you opportunity to learn. Honestly, when I joined this firm, I had no intention to stay here. I'd come there just to pass my CA, and then I would go and find a job somewhere else and go and join the corporate life. My father, fortunately, had done well in his life, so that temptation was always there: big house, big car, everything. And then I fell in love with my job.
Yeah.
And then it didn't bother what salary I was getting or what I was getting, because I was liking what I was doing. That just grew on me. It's an accident. It was
But
my career.
it's a very interesting point that you make here. It's something I think you continue to say even till now. I remember when I first met you, this is one of the first things you told me, that Nishtha, stick to the role, do what you're good at doing, and the money will follow. So don't worry about how much package they're offering, what benefits you're getting.
Yeah.
You should be more concerned about what your role entails and how you can grow in it.
Yeah.
So I think that's very wonderful advice, because these days money tends to be a big factor for people when they're applying for roles.
Yeah.
So the fact that money follows talent and passion everywhere
So
holds
the
true.
one thing which I will tell youngsters, don't let money be the driver. I think it's a very good point you've raised. Don't let money be the driver. Let your job role be the driver. Are you happy with the work? Are you happy with the people in that company? Because you see, when you get up in the morning and you're not motivated to go to office, still go.
Yeah.
Get up second day, still go. Third day, then start thinking, I need to change my job. Because you're not happy there, because an unhappy mind can never perform
Right.
at 100%. So I think wherever it is, big, small, medium, you need to be happy doing what you're doing. And it should not, I'm saying it again, never join a company which works against your value system.
Wow.
So you work with companies that is aligned with your value system. Otherwise, every day you will be disgruntled human being.
Right.
Because you'll say, this is not.
Yeah, you want to get up in the morning and go
Yeah.
to that workplace,
Yeah,
right?
you
It
need
should
to
come
be-
from within you.
Yeah.
So consulting as a profession is extremely intensive, right? So one knows that there is this up or out approach. You have to make it to a certain level in a stipulated period of time. And even for the less intensive roles, support roles, there is a go or grow or go philosophy that's at play. Now it's like the person is constantly on a treadmill, and you don't quite get a chance to get off that treadmill. I want to ask you, what you really think is happening to the mental health of these professionals who are constantly on the treadmill, constantly competing?
So let me tell you an honest fact. Before COVID, nobody bothered about mental health. Let's be honest. I mean, not many people. There would have been companies who focused, so let me not say everybody. Most people were more focused on the work. At least I grew up in a work environment which was hard, which had very long hours. I got a message from one of the people who's in one of the big four, who's a very senior leader, and he worked with me when he was article clerk in Arthur Anderson. He wrote to me, we had long hours, but we enjoyed the work we were doing because of the care and thing you showed to us.
Right.
And you made us into such good professionals that today I want to say thank you to you.
Yeah.
And so, so the point is, it is not about the long hours, but how you treat the person.
Yeah.
And how you make the atmosphere very more comfortable for them. Take care of their personal needs. I mean,
Right.
there would be, see, as an organization, we demand a lot from our employees. We demand. Do we give back? It's a two-way street. So when they are in trouble, are we standing behind them?
Right.
And looking after them, supporting them? Sometimes you can't support, just give them a shoulder to talk on or cry on or whatever. So I think it's important, a duty of care is done by the leaders in these organizations. Anybody who's listening to this and is in a leader, just reflect back. What are you doing for your employees? Are you really looking after them? Are you going that extra mile,
Right.
to support them through? It could be a personal issue also. It could be anything, but how you're helping a parent issue, spouse issue, how you're helping them go through
Right.
that.
Yeah, which brings me back to what Richard Branson says, right? That people uh, don't leave organizations, they leave bad managers. So, like you rightly said, that it's very important that the person that you're working with has that compassion for you,
Correct.
wants to fuel that growth in your professional chart, as it were. So there's this perception that consulting is a very highly paying profession, okay, but in the post-COVID era, especially after the advent of AI, as it were, a lot has changed. Even consulting is, so to say, an industry under renovation. So they are thinking through the solutions they were providing earlier. They're reinventing the wheel. A lot of money is being parked in technology. Do you think this whole perception is about to change, especially with clients now seeking more value driven solutions, vis-a-vis, sort of subscribing to that hourly billing system that consulting had?
So you're right. Consulting, I've seen, because I've been now 38, 40 years in the profession. I've seen the ups and downs, the
Right.
cycles, where industry was paying better, then consulting was paying better, then industry was paying better. The time has come when both are paying equally. Maybe industry is paying a little more also. I was thinking through stock options and those long-term incentives they give
Right.
their employees. And But I think the challenge before consultants is not so much the compensation, but it's a survival also today, because clients are looking for solutions and outcomes. So when they engage a consulting firm, there's not to come and give them gyan and tell them this is what is to be done. They said do it, take your money. So it's all outcome based.
Right.
So if you see the performance management systems also in consulting firms are changing to more outcome based. Okay, you look at various other parameters, just not the work. You look at the value system, the operation, everything. There are about 4 or 5 general parameters. You look at how you treat people, how you behave with people. But when we look at financials, I think it's all outcome based. What did we get and how we did it? So I think that will undergo a change, because today everybody's got access to it. The world has become more competitive.
Right.
So how are you going to differentiate yourself in that market? And that's what I think each consultant needs to work. And I would like to say one thing. So while there's a brand of an organization, there's a personal brand also. So I think young consultants who are coming out in their career work to build your personal brand, because when people ask to work with a particular organization, they many times ask for, can I work for that individual? Can I get that individual to work for me?
Now, this brings me to the question of culture. A lot of companies these days are offering innumerable benefits to their employees, right? Where every sneeze, every cough is covered. But Gartner did a study recently and they said that 42% people who left organizations felt that better culture and better engagement could have kept them back. Now, do you think culture triumphs benefits or is it the other way around?
I think there's a nice saying that culture eats strategy for breakfast. Okay, and I think culture is really important. And the unfortunate part, you may have all the benefits, but you don't give it with an open heart. There's a process. You tick a box, you take it and go. It's all cold.
Right.
I think it needs to there needs to be soul in how you do it. In you giving a benefit, how do you give that benefit to the employee? How do they avail of it? And some of them should not take advantage of it also. So it works both ways actually.
Right.
And employees will feel very happy if the way it is done. So it is not about ticking the box, but about doing it genuinely and
Right.
authentically. I think, and this point which Gartner brought out, 42% of the people leave because the culture could have been better. It's not far from the truth. It is the
Yeah.
honest truth. And I think if employees can get that benefit, in the true sense of the word. So it's not about going, okay, you got one, you said you give somebody something, but how you give it. I'll give you one small example. At KPMG, this happened. We used to reward, I used to meet every single person who qualified within the firm. I used to go to different offices, meet them, talk to them, ask them their aspirations, etc.
Wow.
And the persons who, and everybody got a gift from the firm
Okay.
for becoming a chartered accountant.
Acha.
So, but the person who got ranks were given special gifts, little more expensive, little more this thing.
Right.
And there was this girl who got second rank all India. And so the HR came and told me, yeah, we'll call her into the boardroom and you can give her this award. I said, no, I'm going to go into the bay and give her the reward in the bay. And so went there, gave it to her, said a few words. She said something. I come back to my table, there's a mail from her saying I was planning to leave the firm, but today I've changed my mind.
Wow.
So I think the impact that you have, the way you do it, that was the same reward she'd have got in the boardroom.
Right.
But she got it somewhere else and she felt, okay, now I should be part of this organization because it thinks beyond. So I think the point is how you do it. You want to do something, do it with grace.
Right.
Do it in an elegant fashion. Do it in a way in which, I always believe, this is my belief and this is my personal belief, that if you want to engage employees, it's not always about cash.
Right.
It's about how you treat them, how you appreciate. How many times do leaders walk into the office, into the various places where the people are sitting, talk to them, ask them how they are, and not say, okay, hi, Nishtha, and walk away.
Right.
How are you? And before you can answer, I walked away. Like, what is this strange guy? So he didn't mean to ask me that. He must have been told by somebody to ask this question. So I think you have to be genuine and authentic. I think the time has come. I'll introduce a word out here, what we call servant leadership. So leaders need to behave, they are in the service of their employees.
Wow.
And they need to go out, because I have believed that people who are in service of others, and just not leaders, anybody in service of others will be long remembered after they are gone.
Absolutely.
Than people who have just, doled out whatever. So I think, and people can see it.
Yes.
People can see authenticity. They can feel it.
Right. But the one other roadblock these days, as it were, especially in the post-COVID era, is that people don't want to come back to work. Like, I know of firms that are trying very hard to even bring in the hybrid model. Yeah. Okay. In a situation where people don't come into a physical workplace, how do you then build a conducive culture that kind of promotes belongingness, sense of loyalty, etc.?
So I don't know, this answer may not be good to many people, but I'm going to give it anyway. This is my view again. I think you need to come back to the workplace because that's where you come to know the organization which you work for, the people that you work with, not just seeing them on screens, but you're meeting them. Because I have believed, I've also lived in this post-COVID era where I was working with KPMG Dubai and we were on the calls. Nothing much was getting done. It was only decided, okay, the next call is on this date.
Right.
I mean, you discuss something and then you say, okay, next call on this date. We did a physical meeting. I mean, I flew during the COVID period when they just opened up the flying and it was under a lot of restrictions, as you know, in those days.
Yeah.
I went there in 2 days, so much got done. I mean, so much of the work got done because I think sitting with people, and for youngsters, how do you learn?
Yeah.
You can only learn by collaboration. You can learn by listening to your colleagues.
Right.
You become a much more evolved person. Your social skills get enhanced also because you're working with all your colleagues, etc. And you are able to be the better version of yourself, and you can become there. So yes, we need to have a hybrid working. I'm fully with that. But it should not swing the other way, where people do not want to come. So similarly, I would encourage employees, come back to your work. You can have few days off, or the days when you need to work from home, you work. The one big thing that happened in this work from home is the trust got built between employer and employee. Because now you are trusting, and if somebody trusts you, please do not betray that trust. If an employer is trusting you, please do your honest day's work.
Lovely.
It is for your own good. See, you forget about, okay, I bunked this or I did this. It's all fine. You can do it once in a way. Don't need to be all that serious all the time. But do not break trust, because I believe, again, my view, trust can only be broken once.
Once, absolutely.
And once it's broken, it always have that, the marks, the scars, everything remain. I would suggest that please take your life a little more seriously, and work hard to fight back. Don't
Wonderful.
give in, because many people just give up and they leave.
Yes, and I think that sort of brings me to my next question, which is recently there's been a spate of unfortunate, suicides where young professionals have been unable to deal with the work pressure. Now, my question to you is, do you think work pressure has suddenly increased as compared to what it was during your times? Do you think people have become emotionally more vulnerable so they lack the support from family or friends? Or is it culture that's become more toxic suddenly?
It's all of it.
Okay.
Two, three things have happened. One is this COVID period, which has impacted people. Number two, I think our social media has become so, people who are in the social media space, it was never like this social media. There was one LinkedIn, one WhatsApp, and that was life
Yes.
was. Now there are so many social media platforms, OTT platforms. There's too many distractions for people. And people are spending a lot of time on it. So I think that is diverting them from their work. And I think it's important we get back to work, because it's not right that we spend our time. There is place and time for social media,
Sure.
but so that is the third. And I don't want to get away from this. The toxic culture has really become very bad. I've been hearing some horror stories about this toxic culture, of how employees have been treated. I've got some very senior people who come and told me, one lady, like very senior person, she was abused and in a firm, and she
Oh
said,
dear.
I've never had it in my entire life. And she was a top leader in the top management. So I think the toxic culture, and the worst sufferers for this are the junior most people.
Yes.
I think if one message I want to give you all here, please learn to say no. Please learn to say no. No job is worth it if your well-being and your health is getting impacted. It's
Right.
better to walk away. There are many jobs available.
Yes.
The world is waiting there, and if you're smart, if you're good in your work, you'll get it. But do not work like a slave. Get out of the slavery. The toxic culture actually makes you a
Yes.
slave. And I would
Absolutely.
say, and also for all the managers, have some humanity. How you deal with people. Please understand their personal issues, their challenges. Give them some breaks. They are not machines that you put on the button and it keeps running. I mean, they're human beings. They need rest. They need care. They need, emotional connect.
Very
Yeah,
important.
so I think these are very, very important, and I think people should spend time with their managers,
Yeah.
with their employees.
So a lot of the work culture or the working hours, we're still talking about 100-hour work weeks, a very industrial revolution sort of a phenomena. Now, recently, John Hopkins did a survey with Gen Z, and it is funny that 73% of them said that we're looking for flexible work alternatives. At a time when they're going to become a big part of the workforce, how do you see corporates adapting to their approach?
So, if your majority of the people that you're going to hire is coming from Gen Z, which it's going to be very soon, I think one would need to listen to them and give them an environment where they are happy and they can perform well. Because I think the one thing that smarter people have learned, or smarter companies have learned, it's not about the hours, it's about the outcome you get from the work. So there is somebody who could do the same work in 2 hours, and somebody does it in 8 hours, somebody does it in 12 hours. So each one works at their own pace or their own ability of getting it done. We can't box each of them into that. And I think we are moving, personally, I believe we are moving into what we call a gig economy, where each employee is going to become an entrepreneur, and they're going to give
Wow.
out their hours to the companies. So 2 hours for this company, 2 hours for that. We are going to move to that era, because that is super specialization. And only those people will charge that time, can charge for that time if they are super specialized. And companies want that resource and skill to come in and work. So I can see that moving to that era. Now, when it happens, 5 years, 7 years, 10 years, but it can even happen faster. I mean, who thought that we would have these video audio systems of working? COVID came and it destroyed everything, right? I mean, it made everybody move faster. So I think the era of flexible work hours, the era of being able to also not take unrealistic targets of your clients who will push you to do it in X amount of time. I think when you are pitching for a work as a leader, you need to understand the resources you have and also the time they require to realistically deliver that. I've always believed in a philosophy: under promise, over deliver. So when you are getting a job, clients will push you and say, no, I want it tomorrow. You tell them, no, it cannot be done. This is how it's going to be done. And if it's not, if we don't want, you can go off to some other firm. I'm not going to do it. So I think somewhere along the line, we need to have the strength of conviction in what we are saying. And I can tell you, there have been cases where we have not worked with certain clients because of these kind of things, and we have not suffered. And I think it's the leader who takes the call there and support. So I can see this flexible work culture is definitely going to be there. In what form and shape it takes, people are still struggling. This hybrid work, ultimately what shape it's going to take. And we have been talking of hybrid work even before COVID, honestly. We were trying to put together, at least I know in KPMG, trying to work from anywhere kind of philosophy.
Right.
We were working on, but I was okay, different mindset then. I was saying, how much money will I save? Because I don't have so much space to rent and all that. So they couldn't come back. So it just went on in a discussion format. But I think now the reality is work from home is a reality. We've got connected systems, we've got everything. But one thing I will just say out here: the Indian environment is not conducive to work from home. And I'm just putting this out here because while some employees may have the ability to work from their offices, from their homes where they have a safe, secure workplace to work from,
right,
I don't think everybody has it.
The infrastructure especially.
Infrastructure. I'm talking the infrastructure out here. So I know some companies, what they have done, they have gone and bought these huge number of cards from WeWork. Virtual cards where the people can just walk into a WeWork office close to their home, do their work, do their call. So I think there will be new things which will come up like this. Co-working spaces will become the order. I can see real estate companies coming in some complexes, one complex only dedicated to where people could go into an office kind of area. So they just walk to that place, do their calls, do their whatever. Because most of the time you realize it's all about calls, it's all about doing research, it's all about you need a quiet place to go and work. So I think I can see builders coming with a building in an entire complex which will only be for this co-working. I can see that happening. I don't know who will be the first, but I presume somebody will come.
Especially after this. Also, so what we're effectively saying is that somewhere do you feel that, and we've extensively discussed a toxic work culture, the treadmill culture. So do you think Gen Z could be the generation that brings about that cultural shift, as it were? And, do you think that the global and ethical workplace is about to change because of the influx of Gen Z?
My view is that Gen Z is having a positive impact on the workplace because there are some people who are not accepting the holy cows. They are challenging the status quo.
Right.
They are challenging everything. Why you do it this way? Why can't we do it this way? I've had it even way back. I'll tell you, when I was a CEO, I used to have these youngsters come up and say, why this? Why that? And if I didn't have an answer, I would change it.
Right.
In fact, most of my policy changes which happened during my tenure was prompted by the youngsters. I used to like meeting the youngsters. I used to, that time, call it reverse mentoring. So I used to sit with them to understand what kind of work culture they like, what do they things which drive them, what are the new things we are not doing here, is there a better way to do it? And then I used to get some good ideas from them and then put it as if it's my idea and out there. But it all came out of those discussions.
Right.
And so we did take a lot of bold decisions. One of the bold decisions we took was where we closed a consulting firm for 10 to 12 days at the end of the year. Completely office was all shut.
Yeah.
And I remember a competitor calling me and asked me, have you gone loony? Have you lost it? What are you doing? So next year, all of them followed. So the point is, it was done with a purpose. It was done with giving a break. And this break was more for the general staff. All the admin staff, everybody, they are coming, support functions, they're coming there, working, and the partners are all on vacation during that, that time because everybody's off somewhere. I thought, why do these people? And you'll be amazed the amount of mails I've got from them thanking me and saying God bless you and whatever, because they two things happened. One, it was chronicled into, so everybody could prepare 1 year in advance for the holidays. They could
Right.
book their holiday 1 year in advance. And also it got people to take forced leave, because while we gave them few days we took out of their leave balance. And we had the office closed, and so nobody ever came to the office during that period. I don't know how it works now, but at
It,
that time I used to was very strict. The office will not be open to anybody.
but I think such a wonderful time to reset, right?
Yes.
And having worked in a consulting company myself, I remember that when I first came across this phenomena, I was like, oh wow, so you're trying to tell me that I have the next 12, 13 days off to do the things that I want to. And I was so excited about it. In fact, that's one of the things I miss now. That, oh, I don't have those 15 days
Yes.
off,
Yeah.
where I'm also going to get paid, right?
Yes.
So
Yeah.
I think it was a wonderful initiative. And a lot of companies still continue it. At least most
Yeah.
firms do it, I
Yeah.
know for sure.
Yeah. And that idea actually came to me from a manufacturing company where they used to have this shutdown. I said, if manufacturing shutting down their machines, humans need to be shut down.
Right.
And that's the idea which actually got to me. And I said, do it. And I really got opposition from my leadership team. They said, no, this is not a good idea. I said, somewhere along the line, the CEO has to take executive call. I'm taking this call, and I'm going to do it. And it proved to be successful,
Right.
at least at that time.
So, the one thing that you talk a lot about, and I've heard you saying this earlier also, is leading from the heart. And I think you quote this one quote from Nelson Mandela where you say, a good heart and a good mind is a formidable combination. At a time when competition is the norm, everybody is just competing with their peers. The approach is to pull others down. How do you really lead from the heart?
I will give you another Nelson Mandela example,
Okay.
because I had the opportunity at one of the international partners meets while at KPMG, where the rugby team's captain, rugby team of South Africa captain, came to tell his story to
Okay.
us. And if people have not seen the movie Invictus, I would suggest to see that movie. It's a very moving movie, and he actually, I didn't see the movie before I heard him. After I heard him, I immediately went and saw that movie, because I've seen him in real. Of
Right.
course, he's very tall. In the movie, he's not, but he's a tall, well-built guy. And so he told us that when Nelson Mandela became president, he called him and said, "Tell me your style of leadership." So he said it's collaborative. He told him it's collaborative. And they had a discussion and everything else. And then he goes back to his car. His girlfriend is sitting there. And she asks him, "What did the president ask you?" He said, "He didn't ask me anything. But his eyes told me he wants us to win this cup." So here was a president who believed that sports would unify South Africa.
Right.
They came out of that black-white situation, and there was a lot of riots, etc. He was there on the day of the final when finally they made it to the final. They were playing the New Zealand team, which was
Okay.
unbeatable,
Oh.
which was far superior to the South African team. But the fact that they saw Nelson Mandela come there in wearing jersey number 6, the
Wow.
captain's jersey, and sat there through the whole thing, they said, "You have to do it for him." And they won this thing. And from that day onwards, the lot of South Africa changed. So I just want to tell you, leaders inspire.
Right.
They don't need to go around and this thing. So I think in today's world, it's about inspiring your team. And when you inspire your team, so there's an employee there who is very talented. He or she does not know their talent or what they can actually do. The leader to get the best out of them.
Absolutely.
So you see, when it's competitive, I don't think it's soft. I think being soft shouldn't be taken as a weakness, but as a strength. Because you can just imagine the difference between a boss and a leader. A boss tells you what to do. A leader inspires you to do it. So they get you to do things which you could not believe you could do. And ultimately, leadership is all about doing it in a very different way in moving forward there.
Right.
So, yeah.
Wonderful. So, during your tenure as a top boss at KPMG and some of the other companies, what is the one thing that really brought you unexpected joy?
for me, when I became CEO at KPMG, the one promise I made to myself, I even told the people, it's not about results. I want to make this a happier place than what I got it. And I tried everything possible through HR policies, through, make people's life more bearable. It's tough.
Of course.
It's hard life, but how can you bring some joy into that life? My biggest areas of joy were maybe 2, 3 things. One was the launch of the higher purpose, where you question the why of your life,
Right.
as to why I do something, why do I come to office, why am I working in KPMG?
Right.
And if KPMG does not exist, will the world miss anything? That's the question we went in with. Will the world, all they think, theek hai, ye competition chala gaya, good. So how are you going to become that person who's going to, so I look at it like this. So if your salary is your current account, your higher purpose is your capital account.
Wow.
So how do you exchange that? So that was the launch of the higher purpose. We got covered in the Harvard business case also as one of the things that what we had done there. And the second one was the work that I did for the absolutely lowest of the staff.
Yeah.
The office boys, all the support, those IT, all those guys
Support
who would
function.
who nobody would look at them, because they came to me, security guards and everything. They came to me and said, so even till date, I'm grateful that the firm is following that, what I put in place while I was there. And I gave them benefits which would far exceed their tenure in the firm. So that, because they were not getting very good salary and they said they had no. So I said, it's a small cost. They've given their life to the firm. Let's give back to them. And also did many other facilities for these.
Right.
1,000 of them were there in the
wow.
firm. We did it. I still get, so as I said, the only people to remember me are the security guards and the office boys. I keep getting messages from them. And so I would say that these were the happiest moments, if you want to know.
Wonderful. And I think this will sort of tie us back. Harvard's been doing the longest happiness study. So I think in the 1930s, they picked up a batch of sophomores and they've been studying their life over the last, almost a century now. And the results are mind-boggling, okay? Harvard says that the happiest people from that batch have been those who've had sound relationships, a sense of purpose, and deep desire to give back, right? And also those who continue to upskill themselves. Now, again, bringing the intensity of the consulting world back, how do they strike work-life balance in a scenario like that? How do you really build on your relationships? And I think personal relationships are extremely important, right?
Yes, absolutely.
So how do you build on those?
I'll just give one example, something which a young girl, when I was interviewing her in 2002, I remember the year also. That time, for that short period, Anderson had merged into EY, so I was there. So we were interviewing her, and she was newly married. And she came through the rounds and finally came to me and she said, see, I don't want to work beyond 5 o'clock. Newly married, I need to respect my relationship with my husband and everything. So I said, okay, that's fine, we'll take you. But you can't expect that you will be treated on par with somebody who's working much harder. And she kept arguing with me. And then she gave me something called the 5-ball theory.
Okay.
Which I didn't understand then.
Okay.
I didn't understand that at all. And I was saying, what is this 5-ball theory? And she explained it to me. I said, have you heard it? I said, no, I've never heard it. And then she said, I'll, give it. And 15 years later, when I was giving a talk, I read this 5-ball theory. I said, oh God, this is what she was trying to tell me. So basically the 5-ball theory is that there are 5 balls in your life. One is your parents. One is your friends. One is your health, well-being. One is spiritual. These are all glass balls.
Okay.
If they fall, they will break. And if they break, there will be a crack in them. And like we spoke about trust, there's a crack. You can never repair it back to its original form. And so you can, and so it's basically relatives. So I won't say just parents, relatives, your spouse and everybody. And the last ball, which is a rubber ball, is your job. It's a rubber ball. So it'll bounce back.
Wow.
And I didn't understand it at that time. Let me tell you, I'm a very different person after leaving full time and being here. My views have changed so dramatically to life, how it is. So to have a complete life, I think you need to give enough time to each of these.
Correct.
And job needs the least time in the sense it needs the least. Yes, you need to work hard, or you won't have the job. I mean, that's clear. But you need to be a complete human being by giving time to these things, because when your days of job is over, you'll suddenly find you have no friends. You have no relationships because you have broken every single relationship there which you could have built. So, I think, I always, even before this five-ball theory, I used to always believe in something called work-life harmony.
Harmony.
Work-life harmony, not work-life balance. So there's a difference. Work-life harmony. How do you build harmony between your work and your personal life and do it? So I used to always keep telling people, why are you cribbing? Why are you working so late? I used to tell them, I said, you do your work. If you get off your phone and do that same time, you spend 5-6 hours of consistent, you're out. Go back home, spend time with your family. I think people don't want to spend time. I'm sorry if I'm saying this, maybe they just want to stretch their hour or whatever. So I think there are some people who respect that and they do it, but I think we should look at that. Myself, personally, I've always been giving back from young. I've been taught from my parents that you're a creature of the society. You learn to give back to society. You can't, this money is not yours, and you're just a medium, and learn that you give back substantial amount of money. So I've been doing that on a regular basis. And then if you have a purpose in life, I said, if you don't have a purpose, there's no life. So I think the happiest people are those people who have a purpose as to why they do something. Now somebody can come to work and not be interested in the work, then they'll never be able to give. So one very important thing I'll tell you, if you have a purpose to life, you would be able to give 100% to that job. It's not a job anymore. It's something you love doing. And when you love doing something, then you're beyond job and you are able to give. And that will also ensure your own growth, your personal growth. You will be up there. And like you once asked, you said, why do you want to chase money? Money will come itself. I'm just saying that I can tell you in my entire professional career, water finds its level. You may not get the money from where you worked hard, but over a period of time it gets corrected.
Absolutely.
And you get the money from somewhere else, and so life just moves on. I think life is fair as long as we are open and positive minded.
But tell me, to get to where you got, I'm sure there were personal sacrifices. What were those? And would you recommend this life to your daughter, to lead the same life?
Okay, let me answer the second question. My daughter didn't get inspired by me, by the way. She wanted to do an MBA, and then my nephew, he went on to do CA, and I don't know what stories he told her. She said, she one day came to me and said, I also want to do CA.
CA.
And she got into it, and she worked with one of the big four, and she said, it's a very boring life. I don't like it. And so I didn't need to do anything. And she's now more into animals and all those kind of things, fostering and rescuing animals. Of course, we have to get a commercial angle to it. So I didn't need to. See, I would not recommend my life to many people. I was lucky that I was divorced very early in my life, so I was able to spend a lot of time on my work. Otherwise, coming from a small firm, and coming into the big four and making it to the top is not easy. I know the kind of challenges I had, the kind of feedback I used to get behind my back. Of course, people used to come and tell me, who's this guy, kahan se aaya, does he even know anything, from a small firm, we are this big firm. And so I can give you one small instance out here. There's this one, I won't name her for sake of, and she also was doing CA, but she gave it up because she just found it too boring and too this thing. And media was what attracted her. And one day I was at a training at one of the hotels in Goa, and she came up to me and said, Richard, can I meet you? Once you're done with your people, I'm at the bar, can you come? I went, I didn't go. I was with my team, so she came to me and said, listen, I need to spend some time with you. So she said, for a long time, I wanted to give you this feedback. When you came and joined Arthur Andersen, everybody used to say, who's this person? And in 6 months, the way that same people used to talk about you, they became your fans, or they started following you and started working with you. When I used to work late, and all these teams was working for you, were also they were also sitting late, but all of them were in a happy state of mind. The people working on your project. So I don't know what you did, or that you inspired these people, even when they work late into the night or early into the morning, they would not be unhappy working on projects which you had put. So, so I think uh, I would not recommend this life to everybody in that sense, because for me, I was lucky. It could have gone completely wrong. I mean, I took those decisions. Told you, gut 5 minutes decisions. You don't know what comes out, but I was lucky. Was there at the right place at the right time, and I
Right.
made it. But I'm an accidental person. I would say people should have a more structured and planned out life.
I think so. What you're basically saying is what most positive psychology researchers are saying, that emotional quotient trumps intelligence quotient. Although the world keeps running after IQ and technical skills, at the end of the day, I think what will steer a person through in life will be the IQ. Is that right?
Absolutely, I agree. I think EQ plays the biggest role. Beyond when you rise up in an organization, technical skills are not important. It's all about people skills,
Right.
about how you care for your people, how you deal with people situations. And another important point I want to tell everybody listening on this, what is your network? Does your net work? So we keep talking of network from a Wi-Fi perspective, but you also have to see that does your net work, so that when you call somebody, they're out there to help you. And this will only come, and here I want to give one example to you. uh, we have not talked about it, so I'm going to bring it out, is that we need to learn to respect people when we are at the top. What happens, most people become very arrogant,
Right.
and they become distant from their team, and they are not at all available to their team. So number one, availability. Number two, not being arrogant. And number three, respecting the other individual. Because my view, life is a circle. What goes up has to come down. And if you treat people with respect on your way up, they will treat you with respect on your way down. People don't see it at the time they are working, that when the title is stripped from them, how will you be treated? You don't see it. You see it when it's too late.
Right.
And all the people who get respect beyond their tenure or after their titles go are the people who may have done a good job of how they treated people, because
Yeah.
everybody still respects you and looks at you. So I would suggest to everybody, please respect everybody, no matter which part of the organization they are, because you do not know who will help you in there. And here I want to give an example of this fighter pilot who did about 70 sorties into Vietnam, and finally he was shot.
Oh.
And he was shot over Vietnam, and he was there captured, and he escaped. And then
Okay.
he started giving talks about
Oh.
his how he came out of that imprisonment and everything else. One day he was having dinner, and one guy walks up to him and said, "You are so and so."
Huh.
I'm sorry, I'm forgetting his name, so I'm not
Yeah.
able to say, "Are you so and so?" He said, "Yeah, how do you know me?" He said, "I was the person who packed your parachute."
Oh.
And so he took the story and said, who is packing your parachute? Everybody needs somebody to pack their parachute for them. He said, if he had not done it, he said, if I had not packed your parachute properly, God knows whether you would have landed at the ground. And he himself says in that story that I do not know whether I even said good morning to this guy. He was a normal sailor on the ship. So I didn't look at him, and he saved my life. And he started telling the story wherever he went, because he was an inspirational speaker. So he used to go and tell this story. So I'm just saying, we all need somebody to pack our parachute,
Yeah.
because it's very important. Who's packing, who's looking after your back, who's looking after
Yeah.
you, behind you. And I think that's very, very important.
Also, from here, like, I think two people, apart from family, of course, have played a very, very significant role in my life, and these have been my coaches. So I've had two coaches, Rachel Gojer and Matt Cooper, for many years now. And they've helped me, find my strengths, come back to who I am, in a way, helping me pack the parachute. Who were the people that you went back to? What were the resources that you relied on during tough moments, especially?
I'll tell you the persons from who Mr. Mama, my mentor, I
Yeah.
learned a lot. So I would say that that's one area where I actually got a lot of this thing. But I'll tell you, I'll give you one point to everybody who's listening to this conversation. Never let the child in you die. When I was younger, I was a big prankster, playing pranks on everybody all the time. Innocent pranks, not anything which would cause them death. But I would, and we used to have good laughs. Everybody used to be happy. And many times I remember when I was in Rathanesh Mama, a lot of my friends used to come to my office in the evening, बोलते अभी pranks चालू होने वाले हैं. So in the evening after office hours, phone calls would go, this would go, and all sorts of. I remember one of the calls where we called up a neighbor of mine and said, "Is your refrigerator working?" So he said, "Yeah, it is working." Then why don't you run after it? So,
Yeah.
so then he's wondering who's calling, and in those days there was no mobile, so nobody could record who's calling what,
Right.
and various things we did, with connecting two people onto a call and just then disconnecting and letting them both talk to each other. You called, you called. So I'm just giving those. So never let the child in you die.
How
I think
wonderful.
that's very important because that keeps you alive. It keeps you innocent. Because that innocence of a child, we lose along the way because we become so, running after money, dog eat dog, and, all those kind of things. You need to keep that thing going. Second, very important to me was my pets.
Yeah.
So whenever I would go out, I would just be with them. The poor guys come wagging their tail. They don't know what kind of dog, what kind of horrible day you have had. But then you'll just be with them and you'll say, okay, chalo, life is good.
Right.
And the third was music. Music is a big thing to me, to listen to music and just calm down.
Wow.
And the last one, which I used to do very early, which I stopped afterwards, I used to go for long walks. I used to have a problem, I used to have an issue, a fight. I used to just go down the office, and in Bombay, I remember Marine Drive, I used to walk up and down that, take out all the steam, jo bhi, whatever was there, gussa, whatever, just
Right.
take it out there. And some days I would take some friend of mine with me, chalo walk karte, he would keep hearing. But I think these were the few things I did. Uh, one thing that I could have done better was ask for more help, which I didn't do, and could have improved myself. Last, when I became a CEO, the global firm got me a coach, an American lady who was my coach. She was very tough with me. So she was very, very tough. She told, this you have to stop now. Like I would say, toxic culture in firms need to stop now. There's no place for toxic culture.
Right. Correct.
So many things she told me, you stop this now, and these are things you continue doing. And I was very happy with her. Even after I left KPMG, she continued to coach me free of charge because she said, you need me more now than what you needed me then. And, I just want to say thank you for all that you did for me. And she told me also, she said, I knew you won't call me. So I have gone to your assistant, Manisha, and told her to fix up the calls between us so that I continue to interact.
But some of these coaches are absolutely, I think my coaches are exactly like this. They're so generous and so giving. And I think if you're able to strike that equation, they keep coming back to you, you can keep going back to them. And I think that's absolutely beautiful.
Sure.
You said don't let the child within you die. I want to ask you, what is the advice you want to give to new age parents? There are very few people like me who work on emotional empowerment for children. Mostly parents today, if they have a chance, they want to put their children in coding classes. They want to do Minecraft. They want them to do abacus and things like that. Children have stopped having fun. How do you think parents should actually be raising the children? Because what we are now headed to is really a very volatile, uncertain, what we call the VUCA world today. What is the advice you want to give to parents?
So, I'm saying that when you're older, don't let the child die in you. Don't kill the child before their time.
Yeah.
That's the first advice I'll give. Because there is a time and place for everything in life. I think for me, it was the freedom I got with a few boundaries of strictness from my parents, where I was able to grow into the person I grew. If you see leaders, you will know their background.
Yeah.
Did they have that opportunity to see things, to observe? So I learned, a lot of my learnings came from my childhood, which I was able to connect the dots later on. and I was able to apply it at my work, and everybody thought I was a great champion. The advice that I would give everybody: let the child do what they want, because they are more mature than what we think they are. They know what they want from life. Yes, as long as they are within those guardrails which you have
Sure.
put, I think everything else is fine. Let them grow into who they want. Everybody should take accountability. There's no point pushing somebody. When you push somebody, you can take it from me, guaranteed, that that person is doing it forced.
Correct.
And when they are forced, they are not going to give up their best. They may still tick the box.
Huh.
But have they learned anything? We don't
Absolutely.
know. Okay, so that's very important. And secondly, I would say to everybody is later on in life, all these degrees, all these so-called codings and everything else is going to be useless. Because when they grow up to be good leaders, the child who had that openness and had that kind of environment will succeed at a senior leadership position. So always do everything for the long term and not the short term. So
Right.
are we doing it for because in society it looks good that my child is doing this? Are we doing it because of the genuineness of the child? I think these are questions the parents need to ask themselves.
Absolutely.
And then say that how do they go? Because I think ultimately kids are very, and today's world is very different. I mean, today everything is available to you.
Yeah.
You just do a search and you get all the answers. So I mean, what are we waiting with? So what we do with that answer is what is going to be important.
Yeah.
How we treat it, how we
Yes.
take it into our working life, and also those are things which will be there.
So beautifully put. In fact, I was talking to somebody the other day and she said something very interesting to me. She says, you know, in the next 10 years, while your child's still in school or your kids are still in school, the one thing that you need to manage well is their self-esteem. And that's, you know, I think the biggest mistake parents do is, you know, they badger the self-esteem of the child in the name of competing, coming first, so on and so forth. So I think it's so important, whatever it is that you said in terms of how parents should be raising their kids today.
So on Twitter, I read a few comments when these 12th class and 10th
Yeah.
class. So one parent wrote on the Twitter, I want to congratulate my son. He got 60%. I'm so proud of him.
Yeah.
Now it is about building that self-esteem.
Right.
It's not about making somebody look run down just because they didn't get the 90%.
Correct.
I think that's something everybody should learn. It is, you have to, who are you competing against? Others? Compete against yourself.
Self.
Are you getting self-improvement coming? I think that is more important. Self-esteem, a very important word. And I always say self-esteem and self-respect are, you should know when you have to walk away.
Yeah.
Don't let anybody pull you down. And I like one of the comments one of our leaders made when she said, India is a poor country. And because we're a poor country, we have been taught how not to bend our back. We walk with our back straight. I think that's very, very important. And I think that's what you have to build into the child and tell them that they are the best. And I can tell you, you'll be proud of them later on in life and you'll say, this is, and people change, people evolve, people learn. Put them into the learning mode of learning in universe, what all the universe can give. I would say I would rather spend time on that and them becoming a complete human being than just going into one technical
rote approach.
Yeah.
And I think it's such an important skill to have. What one has noticed now also in terms of the way the work climate is, there have been so many layoffs, right? So many people have lost their jobs. I'm sure you also believe that somewhere people who have stronger EQs or that emotional balance, they're able to find alternate things to do in life versus those who do not. You know, they slip into they slip into depression, they get sucked into the black holes. So I think it's extremely important that you build that robustness emotionally in you, because life will be full of vagaries.
Yeah. I completely agree with you. One day I was sitting in the plane and I'm not going to use his name, but he was the CEO of a multinational company. And he said, Richard, tell me, we were in the plane. So he just came and started talking to me. I didn't know him so well, but he started talking, saying, how is it that I'm at 45, I'm an Ivy school guy, top guy. I became CEO at 32 and now I'm jobless. Okay. I said, boss, you have had your run in the mill. You have been CEO for like 15 years or 12 years. That's a long enough time. Nobody can have a runway longer than that. Or generally, very few people do. Because you'll never do a good job beyond. There's nothing innovative you can bring. So he's saying, what do we do? So I said, you have to reinvent yourself. So I think the point is, I would look at it like this, that Um Earlier, I used to say reinvent yourself every 2 years. Now I'd say reinvent yourself every month, because life is changing so fast. You don't
Right.
even know what's coming to hit you.
Yes.
So, and if you find most of these people have lost their jobs are between 40 and 50, and they have lost their jobs because they're no more relevant to the organization. So I will say learn to be relevant, because nobody's interested in your brand. Nobody's interested what you did yesterday. They want to know what can you do now or in the future. And if you remain relevant to the organization, there's no way you lose your job. Even if you're 60, they will still want to keep you, because they'll say this guy can add value. So it's not that everybody will get that opportunity, but we should work to becoming useful. I would
Right.
say that would be.
So clearly, family is everybody's first school, right? Our building blocks are made there. Tell me a little bit about your growing up. What were your parents like? What was their influence like on you?
I think the biggest influence on my life was my mother. Uh, she used to, all the values I imbibed was from her. And actually, when she died, I just couldn't accept it, because I felt that though she had nothing much to do now in my life, professional life or anything, but I just felt that my whole
Regardless.
ecosystem is gone.
Yeah.
Now I'm just orphaned, kind of. But she taught everything that I know today, giving back to society. Like I remember I used to give some check somewhere. She said, "Can't you make it a little bigger amount?
Wow.
And can't you not give more? Why do you want to keep all this money? Just give it." And so how to treat servants. Like I remember one day we all came from school and we went to the servants and said, "Pani lao." They're not your servants, your father's servants.
Wow.
Go to the fridge and get your, and you told the servant, "Kabhi mat inko pani pilana." Let them learn. So these are few things that remained in my head. Like we used to go for movies, the driver will be want a ticket, you're having ice cream, he will also get one ice cream. So these are small things which remain.
Inclusion.
Yeah, that you don't, these are not any different. Call them by their name, call
Yes.
them, respect them for who they are. So so I think she had the really big influence on my life. And of course, I learned a lot from my own brother and sister, though they were younger to me, about how life, certain challenges you deal with and everything. But one of the biggest lessons I learned in life, which was a game changer for me, because let me tell you, as any other young person at that age, you wanted money.
Yeah.
You wanted to have this big house, not big house, you wanted to have a house and whatever. And when I saw my brother when he died and I was at his grave, I said, if this is what the end is, how does it matter? Tomorrow I will be there.
Yeah.
So I stopped chasing money. From that day
Wow.
onwards, my whole life changed. My attitude to money changed.
But you were fairly young even
Yes,
then.
but it completely shook me to the, it took me, though we used to keep fighting when we used to be there. When he was alive, we used to keep fighting. I remember the previous night when he died, the previous night, some family friends came and he told all the old stories he was narrating, about
Okay.
us. And it took me a lot of time to get back to normal after he
Passed away.
passed away. It took, I couldn't reconcile to the fact that he's gone, and but we never used to call it mental issues at that time, right? You just took it
Yeah.
and you took it on your own self.
Yes.
And got your own recovery
Yeah.
process put in. I lost interest in food and everything. So and that's the time, that was a big game changer for me, I would say. And uh, yeah, that was one. And the other one is, another personal issue was when my divorce happened. And we both, it was mutual, both of us
Yeah.
decided we just can't live together. And she took away my daughter, and that's the time I completely broke down. And so I said, if I cannot bring up my own daughter, let me go to the slums and bring those girls up. So that's the first time I remember when I went back to give back to, started giving
Wow.
donations
Yeah.
to educate these children. And because I saw their performance, I said, this is real talent. Why can't I not bring up few more children?
But how wonderful. What a long way you've come, because now I know what the great relationship you have with your daughter.
Yeah.
So I think really in so many ways deaths can be life altering.
Correct.
For those who are left behind.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Great. The one other thing I want to talk to you about finally is that now you're like semi-retired,
Yes.
right? The first time I met you, the one thing you said to me was, Nishtha, I'm in such a happy place in my life. I just love to help people. At a time where a lot of firms are asking their senior partners to take early retirement because they're on a cost cutting spree, as it were, a lot of people are dreading the life after retirement. Where are you getting your zen from?
So, one of my colleagues who was in a leadership position with me at KPMG, he asked me, how did you feel on 1st April 2017 when you left the firm?
Right.
Not a single person replied. I said, I didn't feel anything. He said, what do you mean you didn't feel anything? I said, I didn't feel anything. He said, why? I said, I had no attachment. So the one thing that I've learned, which over these years, it is not to be attached to anything, whether it is position, title, money, nothing. Because I keep asking people, money, when do you see the money? It goes to checks, credit
Into the
cards.
bank account.
Yeah, bank account, and then you never see it because it's going, it gets depleted, whatever. So I would say that I get it from giving back to society.
Yeah.
Because I said, I've learned a lot of things. There is somebody who directly, indirectly taught me. How can I not help people along the way who need that help?
Right.
Or whoever I feel, whoever comes to me, I'm very happy to. I give talks, I don't charge, I don't do anything because I feel these young kids, and I go to very small cities and talk.
Yeah.
Not even like Ludhiana, now I'm going to Batinda.
Wow.
So, all these places where these people would not, and it's so difficult to get there. So I'm trying to get, how do I even reach there?
Yeah.
So, but I just go and give my talks out there, and I talk about my life basically, on
Yeah.
what I did and did not do. So, I'd like to, and secondly, I have got more time to spend with the family, with my daughter, with my sister, my brother-in-law, and everybody else who's there, and my dogs.
Yeah.
And also do some of the vacations which I never did, and so did have caught up on a lot of those. I've seen all these places, but as a professional, I used to go on office work, so you see nothing basically.
Correct.
Other than the hotel and the office or
Yeah.
the meeting room. Now I've gone and seen. I said, "Oh wow, these are good places." So, that's why.
Also, I think some of the definition of retirement has changed. Like I was talking to my coach the other day, and he said, I retired at 28. And I was like, wow, but you're still working. So he says, for me, retirement was having the ability to do what I want to do, when I want to do it, and as much of it as I want to do. So I think that has also happened with you. You still continue to sit on the board
Yeah.
of, a few places.
So I am now going to take a kind of senior advisor role with Grant Thornton.
Okay.
So I'm going to take that role, and because I believe there is a lot left in me to give back to the profession.
Wow.
I don't want to lose it.
Yeah.
I don't want to lose this because I feel, and this is my sincere advice to everybody who's in my position or even a little younger than me, looking for life, I think never ever retire. I think you need to keep yourself active. You don't need to do it for money because money is no more important now.
Yeah.
But you do it because to keep yourself active, your brain active, and also the inner desire to do something. So somebody asked me, why are you doing this now at this age? Somebody asked me, and I said, I feel I can still make an impact.
Yeah.
I'm not sure I will, because nobody in the second innings has made an impact. But I got a little glimpse of it when I was with the Middle East firm of KPMG, where we changed the entire firm around. And I'm not saying I did it, but we all together did it. And I felt that when I can do it in a foreign country, why can't I not do it in a country where I know? And I'm back with a lot of clients. Everybody's meeting me. Everybody's giving me the same welcome.
Excellent.
So it's good.
Excellent. My final question. One piece of advice that you want to give to the youth of India.
Yeah. I think first thing is always lead your life with integrity. It's very easy to say, but never ever, even if you're the last man standing, do what you believe is right. Number one, don't go follow the crowd. That is the first. Secondly, the destiny is in your hands. You're the driver of your life. Don't blame the world for it. All the choices you make today will come and impact you 10, 20 years later. So make the right choices and take accountability for those choices. I would say be a good ancestor, leave the world in a better place.
Wow.
And also grow trees that you will never see, because somebody grew trees and you got the advantage.
Yes.
I'm giving a simple example on that. And I would say that live life in such a way and keep reinventing yourself. All what I've said in my talk, some of those I'm not going to repeat again, I'll amount to repetition. But I would say lead life in such a way that if you're not here tomorrow, how would you like to be remembered? You don't know when the end is going to come. So I would leave it with that.
It's been so wonderful. I think there's so much learning that happens each time I meet you, and you've passed on such wonderful nuggets of wisdom to our audience. So thank you very much for coming on the show, and I hope you continue to inspire the world as you've been doing for so many years now.
Thank you very much for inviting me. It's an honor to be here, and always interacting with you has always been a pleasure, because you are this energy, ball of energy, as I call, who brings out a lot of good in people. So I think I would say the same thing to you.
Thank you.
Continue doing this, and I think these talk shows, hopefully somebody will get impacted
Yes.
by it. Even if it's one person, it's good enough.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank
Rekhy.
you.
Thank you.